Hello, welcome all to another session of signals and systems. Today we will be studying basic types of signals. But before that, let's recap whatever the things we had covered till now. Till now we had covered basically on the different classification of signals, that is continuous time, discrete time, analog digital signals, periodic, non-periodic signals, even odd signals, random and deterministic signals. So let's start with the basic types of signals, that is delta function, unit step function, ramp function. During this course, we will be dealing with these signals in most of the times. So let's start. So the first type of signal that we'll be studying is delta function or impulse. Well then, let's see what does it mean by an impulse. Impulse is impossible pulse. The pulse that cannot be given, or the pulse or the signal that is a very bad kind of signal, and generally impulse is given to a signal to get the system characteristics. So let's see how to represent this signal, then we will be studying the characteristic of the signal. So the mathematical representation is the signal amplitude is infinity at t equal to 0, and at other instances of time that amplitude will be 0. So it is represented in this way. This is T, this is del T and T. So here at T equal to 0, the amplitude is infinity, and at other instances the amplitude becomes 0, right? But in some books you might have seen it is written that at t equal to 0 the amplitude is 1, but it is not true. What it actually means is at t equal to 0 the amplitude, it is not the amplitude, the strength of the signal is 1. That is, if I take the integration of the impulse function, the duration of integration is minus infinity to infinity, and del t dt is equal to 1. It is the strength. Keep this in mind, this is the strength of the signal, not the amplitude of the signal. So at t equal to 0, the amplitude is infinity, and at other instances it is 0, and the strength of the signal is 1. But this case doesn't arise when it comes to discrete representation of impulse function. That is, at discrete time, at t n equal to 0, at n equal to 0, the amplitude is 1, and at other instances of n, this is del of n, at other instances of n, it becomes 0, either in positive or negative time axis, but at n equal to 0, it is 1, right? So let's derive the impulse function from the given square signal. So how to derive? Let's say the time axis has been limited from minus epsilon to epsilon, and the amplitude is 1 by 2 epsilon. So if I go on decreasing, if I will decrease it in this way and if I decrease it in this way, so you see this time duration decreases, but as the time duration decreases, the amplitude actually increases. So how the representation will be? It is here I am decreasing the time. Initially this is my time from minus epsilon to epsilon, and amplitude is 1 by 2 epsilon. Then if I decrease from this time and from this time, so it will be this way, then again it will go on decreasing. So you see here I am decreasing the time axis, but here the amplitude goes on increasing. So the total area between the signal will contain is minus epsilon to epsilon 1 by 2 epsilon dt. So the area under the signal will be 1. So here at last the representation will become something like this: t equal to 0, this will be infinity, and the total area that will be inside the signal, that will be 1. So that is, we derive the impulse function from a square wave. So let's derive it from a triangular wave. The approach will remain as it is. Like here I have a triangular signal, and here I'll decrease the time and the amplitude will go on increasing. So initially this is from this to this, minus epsilon to epsilon, and again if I decrease the time, it will be like this. So here you see this goes on increasing and this goes on decreasing. So at last the signal will be something like this. Here at t equal to 0, it will go on increasing, becomes infinity, and at other instances it will be 0. But again the area under the signal will be 1. The area means the strength of the signal impulse is 1, right? So let's take some different cases of integration. So let's take, if the impulse is given to be calculated from minus epsilon to infinity del t dt. So what will be the value of this integral? So generally we know this impulse is represented at t equal to 0, it is infinity, and other instances it is 0. So if I take the lower limit to be starting from minus infinity means, let's say it starts from the neighborhood of 0. So let's say it starts from this minus epsilon, and this is a negative neighborhood of t equal to 0. So again you see the integral actually is having the t equal to 0 instance of time, and at 0 instance it is equal to infinity, and if I go on decreasing, the strength or amplitude will be becoming 1, right? So if I take another time limit, that is, let's start it from epsilon to infinity del t dt. So here again in first case it starts from minus epsilon, but in second case it starts from epsilon. It starts from epsilon means it doesn't include the time instance t equal to 0. If it doesn't include the time instance t equal to 0, then actually for the duration of time that I have defined doesn't include the impulse signal. So if it doesn't include the impulse signal, the integral will be 0. So again let's take another instance. Let's take it is from 0 to infinity del t dt. So what will be the value of this integral? You see, it includes the time instance t equal to 0 and it goes up to time instance infinity. But as it includes t equal to 0, and we know at t equal to 0 the amplitude of the impulse is infinity. The amplitude of the impulse is infinity at t equal to 0. What does it mean by that? It means the signal is not defined at t equal to 0, and it is not defined at t equal to 0, so it will be infinity. It will be infinity, or you can say the signal is not defined, right? So these are the three cases you see. Now let's start with some property of impulse function. We'll start with the shifting function. So generally shifting means, let's say this is the time axis that is given, and here is my original signal del t, and here if I shift it either in positive axis or either in negative time axis, so how the signal will look like. So let's say I shift the signal in positive time axis by t naught. So what will be the representation of the signal in that time will be, let's say this is t naught, this is t equal to 0. So I shifted the signal from here to here. So the representation of the signal will be del t of t minus 0. So this is shifting in positive time axis. If let's say if I shift the signal in negative time axis, so how does it look like is t, I will be shifting in negative time. So here my original signal is at t equal to 0. When I shift it in negative, it will be, let's say it will be minus t, and the representation will be del of t minus of minus t. It will be del of t minus t naught, right? So this is positive time axis and this is negative time axis, right? So let's say based on the shifting property that we have just studied, we will try to solve one question. This is the original signal that is given. The signal is x of t and the time limits are from a to b, and this is a shifted version of impulse function. So if I multiply it, or you can say if I take the integral of it, how the output of will be in different cases. So if I let's say, before getting into the integral, let's say if I take the multiplication of this with this. So here you see xt exists from all the instances of time from a to b, but del of t minus t naught exists only at the instance of t naught equal to 0. And if I multiply both the signals, at all the instances del of t minus t naught is 0. It only exists at t equal to t naught. So the value of the output will be t naught and the amplitude will be equal to x of t at that instance. So it will be x of t naught. T naught means the value of the signal that xt is having at the t naught instance of time. Okay. So let's take different cases of integral. If I take the integral from minus infinity to infinity, or you can say the integral, I define the integral from a to b x of t del of t minus t naught dt. So what will be the output? So if there will be different cases, let's say t naught lies in between a and b. Okay, so what will be the output? So you see t naught lies in between the time limit a and b. So when I multiply x of t with del of t minus t naught, so it will take any of the values of or any of the amplitude of xt at the time instance of t naught. So the value of the integral will be x of t naught. What does it mean by the value of xt at t equal to t naught, right? So let's take another case. Let's say t naught is less than a and less than b, means t naught lies outside the time instance of a and b, means t naught lies to the negative of a. And you see when you take the integral of t naught having lies outside this a and b time limit, then you see when you multiply this with the del of t minus t naught, there is no signal that lies, no impulse that is being defined for this instance of time. So at every instance except t naught, the impulse is 0. So if you multiply this with 0, obviously the output will be 0. And there is the same case if I take t naught to be greater than a and b, means t naught lies at this region of time, that is t naught is greater than a, greater than b. Again t naught lies outside this a and b time instance. So again in this case the integral will also be, so whatever it is there, the integral will be 0. Now let's take the fourth case. Let's say t naught is either equal to a, sorry, less than equal to, or you take only to be, it is equal, it is only equal to be a, right? So this is t naught equal to a, less than b, or t naught is equal to a b and it is greater than equal to a. So let's see how the value of the integral will come out to be. I have already told you during the last slide, if the integration starts from t equal to 0 to infinity, if the integral includes the instance of time that is t equal to 0, and at t equal to 0 the impulse is not at all defined, means the value is infinity, so the integral value will also be infinity. So here again with the first instance t naught equal to a less than b, and the second instance t naught equal to b. So at all the instances the value of the integral will be not defined. This is important, keep these things in mind. If it includes the time instance, then you take the integral value you cannot define the value of the integral. Okay. Now let's take another question. Means the concepts that you will be using mostly whatever we have completed in the shifting property right now. So here you see del of t minus 1. So here t naught is equal to 1. It is shifted in positive time axis by 1 unit of time, right? And the integral limits are from minus 1 to 5. So what will be the value of the integral? So first instance, let's check if the time instance t naught equal to 1 actually lies in between minus 1 and 5. Yes, of course, 1 lies in between minus 1 and 5. Hence, the value of the integral will be x of t naught. Then what is the value? It will be 1 square 2 into 1 plus 2, and the value is 5. Let's say, see if I take one instance that is t equal to minus 2. First, what I told you, to check if this time instance lies in between minus 1 to 5. It is minus 2 and it doesn't lie in between minus 1 and 5. Hence, the value of the integral will be 0, as the impulse function doesn't lie the time limit, the integral limit that is being defined, right? So we'll be starting with let's start with the unit step function. So unit step, there are different ways that you will find in different instances how to define the unit step function. So the first type is ut is equal to 1, t greater than 0, and unit step is equal to 0, or that is it doesn't exist when t not equal to 0. And other one more definition is, it is 1 t greater than equal to 0, it is half t equal to 0, and it is 0 t less than 0. And another instance of defining ut is, it is equal to 1 t greater than equal to 0 and equal to 0 t less than 0. So let's see what are the different instances we use all these different types of definitions. Generally, the second instance, so this instance, that is the third instance, it is mostly used in control systems. It is mostly used in control system. In control system, during the time domain analysis, we calculate the steady state analysis and we take ut to be 1 for t greater than equal to 0, right? But in third case, means in this time duration of this representation is generally used in signals and system. In some cases, we will use the second category, in the first category in signals and systems. Let's take what is how the second category is stands, and how the second, what does it mean by this half of t equal to ut equal to half at t equal to 0. Why we do not use the first category in signals and systems and control systems? Because control systems are applied mathematics and systems, and if we do not define something that is applied to the system at time instance t equal to 0, then there is no point of analyzing the system. And also in second category, by taking ut equal to half at t equal to 0, actually we are using the concept of differential calculus, and that is at the point of discontinuity. Here at t equal to 0 the point of discontinuity occurs. At the point of discontinuity, the value is given by taking the average of two signals, that is t greater than equal to 0 it is 1, t less than equal to 0 it is 0. So 1 plus 0 by 2, the average value is coming out to be 1. So mostly we'll be using this and this one, second and third category. But this is not the case. This is not the case when it comes to discrete time domain. So how a signal is being represented in discrete time domain, it is fairly straightforward. It is the value is unity at n greater than equal to 0, and at n less than 0 it is not at all defined. It doesn't exist. So here it will be u of n. Here my n starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, and here at all the instances starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, the amplitude is coming to be 1, right? So let's say check the relation between delta and unit step function, because we had covered the delta function and unit step function. So actually we'll take, if we take the limit derivative of limit of u del of t, that will be a impulse function. In more general, if you take derivative of u of t, that will give you impulse. So let's see how from this u of del of t we will get into del t. So let's take u of del of t, how it is represented. You see it starts from here, it goes up to here. This is u of del t, this is del t, this is minus del, and let's say this is del. This is u of del, and when I take the limit del tends to 0 of u of del, what will be the signal coming out to be? So when I take del tends to 0, del tends to 0 means it goes on this way and it goes on this way. So eventually it will be a u of t. Then how the signal will look like? This is this, this is this, t equal to 0, and it goes on increasing. So if I take the limiting case of u del of t at t tends to 0, then the signal will be a unit step. And when I take the derivative, of unit step, how the signal will look like? You see, here at t equal to 0, the signal goes up to 1, then the value of the signal remains constant at 1. So here there is a transition occur, and how much the change occurs? It is from 0 to 1. So it is 1, and after that it becomes 0. So, and we know from the impulse signal definition that the area under the signal is 0, or if you take the integral of the signal, that is 0. So at time t equal to 0, it goes up to infinity and then it becomes 0. So the differentiation of u of t will give you a del of t. And the reverse process, you know, the inverse of a differentiation is integration. If you take the integral of del of t, it will give you impulse, it will give you a unit step. So they both are inversely related to each other. Okay, now let's take this example. You are given a square wave, and the square wave exists from the time duration of -1 to 1, and the amplitude is 1, and we are asked to represent this square wave in terms of unit step. So how to do that? The approach will be, so first you take the time instances at which the transition occurs. Here you see 1 at -1, t not equal to -1, it increasing, the value increases, then remain constant, and at t not equal to 0, it decreases, right? So if I first consider a time instance t equal to t not equal to -1, it is 0. So here my time starts, it goes up to, and it goes on like this way, and this signal is u of t plus 1, right? T minus of -1, that is t minus of minus t naught, it is u of t plus 1. Second case, at t equal to 1, again a unit step occurs. So here this 0, t equal to 1, at t equal to 1, it goes on. So this will be, sorry, this is not t, this is u of t minus 1. Now let's see how we can represent this signal in terms of the shifted version of unit step signals, that is u of t plus 1 and u of t minus 1. So we'll start with u of t plus 1. So the signal, you see, the signal goes on increasing, then at u of t plus 1, it becomes 0. So here if I subtract u of t minus 1 from u of t plus 1, you see at this instance, this is, let's say this is 1. So here this minus this, the value of the signal becomes 0. So it is minus of u of t minus 1, that will give me my original signal, that is x of t, right? So we saw, you take the time limits, that is at which the signal makes step change, or whatever the value, the magnitude can be anything. Then you check by what amount the transition is occurring, right? So we'll solve another question to take it into more detail. So you are given this signal, so we have to represent this one in unit step, in terms of unit step signal. So let's say first instance at u of minus 1, right? So the first transition occurred at u of minus t of t equal to minus 1. So it will be u of t plus 1, right? So I won't be showing the signals individually after this. So the means the procedure will be as it is. So at this time equal to t0, it will be u of t. Then again you see at t not equal to 1, the signal makes another transition. This is 1, again you make transition of 1, again you give a step, then again you give a step. So at t equal to 1, again it will be u of t minus 1. So now let's take what are the mathematical operations that we will be performing, so that this can be represented by this one. So x of t will be at t equal to t not equal to minus 1, it is only a step, the amplitude is 1, so t of 1. At t not equal to 0, the amplitude becomes 2. So if I add another step to the original or previously step signal that is existed, so the amplitude will becomes 2. So I will take the sum u of t, right? Then at u of t not equal to 1, again the amplitude becomes 3, means already I have 2, 1 plus 1 2. Then if I add another step, that is u of t minus, u of t minus 1, then the amplitude becomes 2. Then at u t not equal to 2, the amplitude becomes 0. So from 3 it becomes 0. So if I take minus and I multiply it, or if I have to scale it up by multiplying it with 3, So u of 3 u of t minus 2. So this is the representation of my original signal in terms of unit step function. Now let's differentiate this given square function or given square signal. So we have seen, we know this signal can be represented in terms of unit step. So the unit step will be u of t plus 1 minus u of t minus 1, right? See, and if I take the differentiation of this individual unit step signals, obviously I know this will be individually there will be impulse functions. So if I take the differentiation, taking the differentiation of this two unit step is equal to taking the differentiation of this x of t. So if I take differentiation of u of t plus 1 minus u of t minus 1 dt, so it will be u of t plus 1 will be del shifted by minus 1 and then u of del shifted by plus 1. So how this will look like? So this is t not equal to minus 1, it is plus 1, and at t equal to 1, this is minus 1, right? So this is the way. First you take represent the signal in terms of step, then after step take the differentiation of step, and you know the differentiation of step will give you impulse, and this is the way you can define. Again, now let's see how to represent this one. So first you have to define the signal in terms of step, and you see at what instances the signal makes changes at minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. So the steps will be, we'll start with u of t not equal to minus 1, that is u of t plus 1 plus u of t, because the amplitude goes on increasing. Again at t not equal to 1, again it makes an amplitude change of 1, u of t minus 1, right? And at t not equal to 2, it becomes 0. By what amount? From 3 to 0. So we'll scale it 3 u of t minus 3, right? So this is my step representation of the original signal that is given to us. So if I take the differentiation of this u of t plus 1 plus u of t plus u of t minus 1 minus 3 u of t minus 3 with respect to dt. So the individual step functions will be resulting into the impulse. So the first will be u of del plus 1 plus del of t plus del of t minus 1 minus 3 del of t minus 3, right? So in this way you can represent this given signal in terms of unit means if you differentiate this signal, it will result into impulse response, impulse function. Now after completing delta function and unit step function, we'll see another type of signal, that is ramp. And the representation of ramp is, for ramp is equal to t, or it is represented as r of t is equal to t at t greater than equal to 0, means it goes on increasing as the time increases, and t less than equal to 0, less than 0, it becomes 0. So let's see how the representation will be look like. This is r of t it is t, and starting from t equal to 0, it goes on increasing, and t less than 0, it becomes 0. Now let's see the characteristic of ramp, that is if I take the differentiation or integration, what will be the resulting signal. If I take differentiation of r of t, differentiation of r of t means d of t dt. So what will be the output signal will be? It will be 1 and dot u of t. So the the first order differentiation of t will result into step. And if I take the second order differentiation, d square dt square t, so the first order differentiation gives me step, and if I again differentiate the step, it will become impulse, right? So the second order differentiation of the given ramp will result into a impulse function. Okay, so let's represent this signal in terms of ramp. So ramp, we know at t greater than equal to 0, it goes on increasing, and at t less than 0, it becomes 0. So when these types of questions are given, so first you see at t not equal to -1, it goes on increasing, then it becomes constant. So first you see from this instance, for the next instance at which it makes some changes, it makes another change, another transition. At -1 to 1, it is making goes on increasing, then the second transition comes at t not equal to 0. So and then first you check the instance, then you calculate the slope between these time limits. So the slope between slope for this time instance from -1 to 0 will be 1. Slope in between -1 to 0 time axis, this is time axis, will be 1. So the signal I can represent t starting from instance 1, the slope is 1. Then after that you see, if I, and how this will look like if I represent it in graphically, you see t -1, it goes on increasing and the slope is 1, right? Then at t not equal to 0, you see the slope becomes 0, the slope is 0. So from -1, then what is the slope that the signal is making a transition from -1 to 0. So if I from 1 it becomes 0. So if I from +1, if I add -1 to 1, then the slope will become 0. So it will look like something this. Sorry, let's represent it minus r of t, because the transition starts at t equal to 0, slope 1, and then if I subtract it another slope of magnitude 1, then it becomes 0. So how does it look like? This will be something like this. This slope is 1, this slope is 1, and this slope is -1. Right? So this is the ramp representation of the given xt. So now see, let's represent this in terms of ramp. So again, I am not going to draw the individual slopes again. I'll just, so first the procedure will be, you see at once time instances it is making changes, and then calculate the slope in between the time instance. So the first instance at which it making a change is r of t plus 2, and the slope between from here to here -2 to 0 is 1. So then the slope is 1, but again here the slope becomes 0. So 1 then 0. So if 1 I subtract minus 1, then it will become 0. So minus of magnitude of the slope is 1 r of t. It becomes 0. Then it goes on up to 3, t equal to 3. Then at t equal to 3, again it goes on decreasing, and by decreases by minus 1. So it is 0, then it decreases by minus 1. So it is minus of r of t minus 3, right? Then it goes up to 5. At 5, again it becomes 0. So it is minus 1, then it becomes 0. So if I add plus 1 to minus 1, then the slope will become 0, plus r of t minus 3, right? So you check the time instances, or the time instances at which this signal is making a transition or change, then in between calculate the slopes, then multiply the slopes or the slope, or you scale it, it will be getting the ramp representation of the original given signal, right? So we have covered our 3 basic types of signals till now, that is impulse, step and ramp. So now let's see what are the different types of operations that we can perform on the signal. Operation I mean by it is some mathematical operation, and the different mathematical operations that we can perform either on the amplitude axis or on the time axis. If it is on the amplitude axis, then it can be addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And on the time axis, there are different types of operations, that is time shifting, that you can shift the signal in positive time axis, negative time axis, time scaling, you can decrease or increase the time axis, time reversal, you can flip the time axis or you can reverse the time axis. Generally this operation on amplitude, I mean it is fairly straightforward and simple, because amplitude means you are given some value of the amplitude. So either you can add 2 signals, or you can subtract 2 signals, or you can multiply or can divide 2 signals. So that is not much of any nothing to be done in this section, that is operation on amplitude. We will see more detail in this operation on time axis, that is time shifting, time scaling and time reversal. So what does it mean by time shifting? Shift means by you change it by some amount, and change it by some amount, either it can be positive time axis or it can be negative time axis. So let's take a signal, let's take, this is my x of t and it is represented by this way, and this is my time axis, right? So let's say I shift means shift the signal in positive time axis, let's say by t naught amount of time, right? So if I shift the signal in positive time axis by t naught amount of time, means the signal is getting delayed. Here you see the signal occurs, or let me draw the graph form, then only you can understand it more properly. So here is my signal and this time instance at some time instance. Let's say it's something, it is t. If I shift it in this way, let's say this is t naught. So the signal will start appearing only at this time instance, and before that it becomes 0. So this is x of t minus t naught, and this is time axis. So you are shifting it in positive time axis means you are delaying the signal. So shifting in positive time axis is actually delaying the signal. You are delaying the signal. See, this is delayed version of the signal. Now again this can happen, instead of shifting it in positive time axis, I can shift it in negative time axis. So then how does it happen? This is my x of t and this is my original signal. If I shift in this direction, that is on positive time axis. So if I shift during this in this direction. So let's say from this is the original, let's say this is t, and now the signal is shifted by t naught. So the signal will be like this. So this is x of t plus t naught, right? And if you delay the signal in, or if you shift the signal in negative time axis, this is negative time axis, then actually you are advancing. The signal is advanced. What does it mean by the signal will appear at a time instance earlier than that at the time instance at which it is originally defined? So there are two types of shifting. Shifting we had learned. One is positive time axis, another is negative time axis. Positive time axis is delayed version and negative time axis is advanced version. Now comes the scaling. Scaling means you multiply the signal time axis by some amount, and depending on the multiplication factor, the time axis will be compressed or delayed. Compressed means the time axis will become less, or the time axis will become increase. So how does it look like? Let's say we scale the original signal by an amount of 80, right? And if a greater than 1, and then the second case a less than 1. So first instance, if a is greater than 1, if a is greater than 1, then the time axis will be something like this: x of at. So it will be, I am showing you when for the instance a greater than 1 and the compressed version. Sorry, this is the we'll see the signal that is come out after the scaling. So here the amplitude, there will be no change in the amplitude, only the time axis will change because I am doing the scaling operation on the time axis only. So here it is, sorry, this is -1 t1 by a plus t2 by a. So when you scale signal by that amount, you divide that amount by the time instances. So if you divide it by a, then, and if a is greater than 1, then you see this time axis will obviously increase. So this is compressed. The time axis is compressed, right? And you see, if I compress the time axis in continuous time domain, you see there is no loss of data because it can take all the instances of time. It is not like it is not missing out. It is not missing out some instance of time. So there is no loss of data during the compression of continuous time domain. And if a less than 1, so if a less than 1, so the signal, if you divide by, let's say t by 1, when t greater than equal to 1, so obviously it will be multiplied. Means less than 1 means it, let's say it is something 0.005. So if you multiply it with 0.005, then obviously it will be increase, the time axis will increase. So how it will look like? So I will draw the signal here. For a less than 1, the signal, the time axis will expand from here to here. This is x of a of t. The time axis will expand from a of t minus 1, a of t2. And here this is expanded version. Expand. So in scaling, a greater than 1, the time axis decreases, that is compression occurs, but there is no loss of data in continuous time domain. But when we will study the discrete time domain case, then we will see there is actually a loss of data when we compress it in time domain, and when a less than 1, the time axis will actually expand. Okay. Now comes the time reversal. I mean, time reversal is how does it look like if I reverse it? Reverse it means I'll change the variables from positive to negative time axis, right? This is t of minus t, and you can see it is one way of scaling of minus 1, right? Minus 1 into t. So you see it is a scaling by amount of minus 1. Then how this actually time reversal happens? So the simplest method is, this is my amplitude axis x of t. If I reverse it in time domain, that simply you flip the signal around the x of t axis or the amplitude axis. So if I flip the signal, this will come this side and this will go this side. So the signal will become something like this. Minus t2 will become minus and t1 will become plus. So this is the flipping process, and flipping is not, it is a special case of time reversal, that I am reversing the time axis from positive to negative. Okay, so now we had covered three mathematical operations on time domain. One is scaling, shifting and time reversal. Let's see if there are two operations to be performed on the same instance. Here you see, let's see, in this case we will see how to perform the composite operation of shifting and scaling. Let's say x of t is given and I have to find x of 3t minus 2. Here you see both shifting t minus 2 and scaling occurs. So there are two methods. One is either you can scale it, then shift it, and second is either first we can shift then scale, right? So one is scaling after shifting. So we'll see one by one and see what are the procedure we generally follow. So if I first scale it, then x of t will become x of 3t, right? Then after scaling will shift. The shifting amount we see it is 2. If I shift it by 2, so how it will become x of 3 of t minus 2. So this is shifting. So this is x of 3t minus 6. But you see, this is x of 3t minus 6. It is being shifted by an amount of 6, but I want a shifting of 2. So this is not correct. So what will be the correct version of shifting is, you shift. So this is, you have to find the shifting amount you are shifting. The amount of shifting value you have to calculate. So this is x of 3t. So if I'll take another x of 3t minus, I need 2 here. So if I shift it by 2 by 3. So if I open it, x of 3t minus 2. So it becomes x of 3t minus 2. Okay. So this is the correct way of doing shifting. This is wrong value. So you see, while we when we take the procedure of scaling then shifting, you see we have to actually explicitly calculate the shifting amount, that is 2 by 3. Then only we will get the original signal. So this looks like a bit tedious. So let's check the other procedure, that is shifting then scaling. So our original signal is x of t. If I shift it by 2, so it becomes x of t minus 2. Then I will scale it. Scale by 3. Now comes the important point. When you scale it, scale only the time in this variable, not this one, because we are scaling the time axis. We are scaling the time instance t, not this t naught. This is t naught. We are only scaling the time axis. So this becomes x of 3t minus 2. So you see, this procedure is bit simpler, or the calculation involves that is more easier rather than this scaling after shifting. So more generally, this second part is followed, that is you shift the signal then scale it. Okay. So now let's solve one question, that is you are given a signal that is x of t is exists from minus 4 to 4, and the amplitude is at 2 and then 4. So we'll see different cases of this signal. First is we'll find x of t minus 4. Then what does it mean by x of t minus 4? T minus 4, we are shifting the signal in the positive time axis. So if we shift the signal in positive time axis, the signal will simply become from minus 4 will get up to 0, and 0 will be up to 2, 2 will be up to 6. So the signal will be this, this and this. This is 4, this is 2. This is x of t minus 4. Then the second case, x of 3t. We are scaling it, and scaling here a greater than 1, that is a value is 3. So we'll simply divide all the time instances by 3. So how the signal will look like? Obviously you are dividing it, so the signal will be compressed. So it will be starting from minus 4 by 3, 0 by 3, 0 and 2 by 3. So it goes on this, and it will become this. Sorry, it should be something like here 2 by 3. I'll remove it because this will actually compress version of the signal, right? Fine. Then let's take a composite signal, composite operation, that is x of 3t minus 4. So previously I told you, first you do the shifting then scaling. So the shift amount is 4. We already have the shifted version of the signal. So the shifted version of the signal is this one 620, and if then I have to scale it by amount of 3. So if I scale it by an amount of 3, so 6 by 3 will be 2, then it will be 2 by 3, then 0. So the signal will look like something like this. This. Amplitude is not affected at all. This is 2. Then comes the last, that is x of 2 minus t. So you see, x of 2 minus t is actually you can see, first you can shift it, then you can scale it by amount of minus 1. So when I scale it, when I shift the signal x of t by amount of 2, so it will become x of t plus 2. And if I then reverse it, if I reverse the signal, then the time axis will only reverse, that is x of minus t plus 2. Here shift, then here time reversal. Okay, and the signal will look like something like this. Here x of it becomes 2, 2, 2, 0, 4, and it will up to time instance of 4. So this is the final output you will be getting. Now let's take another problem, that is, here x of t is given to you and x of t remains, means the time limit is defined from -2 to 2 and it is x of t 2, and yt is from the amplitude is -2 and it exists from 0 to -2. So and you are asked to represent yt in terms of this xt, yt in terms of xt. So let's see what are the means operations that we can perform so that we can get the original signal. So first you see the time axis. You see the time exists from 2 to -1, and here for the yt it is 0 to -2. So I have to reduce the time axis. Then only I can represent this. So the reduce the time axis. Okay, let's see, before reducing I can shift, because first it will be easier to take first shifting then scaling, because yt is actually exists on the negative time axis. So x of t plus 2 means you are shifting time axis by positive time instance in the negative time axis. So the signal will look like something this, x of t, this is x of t plus 2, -4, -2, 0, and it is x of t plus 2. Then from x of t plus 2 I need to reduce the time axis. So I have to scale it 2t plus 2, because -4 here it is -2, so I have to scale it. So if I scale it, obviously the time axis will be here to here, it will be -2, 0, and this is -1. So this is x of 2t plus 2. Now you see, you got the signal that is same as y of t, but y of t you see it's an inverted version of the this signal, that is x of 2t plus 2, but it is a reversal of amplitude axis, not time axis. So what I will do is I will reverse it, or I will reverse the amplitude. So once I reverse the amplitude, means it, I will write it amplitude reversal. That is, you take the negative of this one. So the signal will look like something -2 to 0, -2 to 0, -1, this is -2, and here this is y of t, and this signal is minus of x of 2t plus 2. So this is my yt in terms of xt. Got it? Now let's see another problem, that you are given a unit step signal and you find the even and odd part of the signal. So unit step, here I have defined unit step to be t greater than 0 it is 1, t equal to 0 it is half, t less than 0 equal to 0. So how can I find an even part of a given signal, right? So if I'll take the even part of t, even part of unit step, so it is u of t plus u of minus t divided by 2, right? So let's represent individual signals, then we'll find u of t is already given, so u of minus t will be here, existing in negative time axis. This is u of minus t. So u of t plus u of minus t divided by 2. So I'll take the sum of u of t plus u of minus t by 2. So u of even will be something. This is my u of even t. So it exists from minus t time instance to positive time instance, and by an amount amplitude will be half. So this will be my even part of time, even part of the unit step. Then I have to calculate u of odd. Sorry. odd part of a given signal is given by the signal here is unit step u of t minus u of minus t divided by 2. So here it will be this amplitude will be half u of t, the amplitude is half, then here the amplitude is minus half and u of minus t, and you see this is actually a half of signum. Signum is, this is actually half of signum function, right? So we had covered the basic types of signal and different types of mathematical operations that is generally performed on the time axis of the signal, and that's it. And the next session we will be starting with different types of systems, and particularly LTI systems, that is linear time invariant system, and we will see what are the mathematical operations that we can perform in the systems, and basically we will be seeing convolution, that is how to get an impulse response of an LTI system, and we will see in detail, in great detail, the mathematical operations regarding the convolution. So thank you for today.